Hello, and today we're going to be talking about the topic of becoming an entrepreneur and the research that I've done about this topic. So, the first thing that I want to mention is that if you are considering becoming an entrepreneur, there are some essential skills and qualities that you need to possess. First of all is communication. You need to be able to communicate with others. Secondly is flexibility. You need to be able to be flexible with the changes that are going to be happening within your business and being able to adapt. Next one is time management, being able to manage your time well to where you're not falling behind. Creativity, you need to be able to have a creative mind and be able to come up with new things as they go. Accounting, you need to have basic mathematical skills to be able to keep track of your expenses, your profit, and just any other things that you need to keep track of. You need to be self-driven because you're an entrepreneur, because you are self-employed, you are running a business. You need to be able to have that self-drive, that motivation, and you need to be able to be willing to learn as you go, having an open mind to learn new things. And the last thing is having a support system. Running a business, you could do it on your own, but in order for you to be successful, you need to have a support system. You need to have a team. You need to have people who support you, who are there for you throughout this process. Okay? Next is, where do you start? You have to do your research in order to figure out what you want to do within business, because there's just so many different pathways, so many areas you can go into. So once you do your research, you now need to decide whether going to school is right for you. In order to become an entrepreneur, you don't need to go to school. It is not necessary. But if you think it's going to be beneficial for you to go to school and get the education, then go ahead and do that. But you have to decide that for yourself. The next one is, know what you're getting yourself into. Know the consequences. Know the pros and cons of the field, the career. Next thing is, you have to find a mentor or a professional in the field. So once you figure out what you want to do, once you have a goal in mind, then find someone within that field, within that maybe someone who owns a business and something similar to what you want to do. Find that person, or mentor, professional, talk with them, sit down with them, have a cup of coffee, and really just get to know what the business is all about, how they got to where they are. You can even go on YouTube and find people who are giving their advice, but definitely don't go into this just head first. First, do your research, feel comfortable and ready. Then, once you find your professional, once you get to know about the field, more about the field, gain experience as an intern. That doesn't mean that you won't be paid. There's sometimes ways where you can get paid while you're an intern, but oftentimes you're not. So just the point of being an intern is to gain that experience, that knowledge, in order for you to start your own business. And lastly, don't be afraid to try something new if your business does not succeed, because there are many times where people have tried many different things and it was only the thing on the very bottom of the list that succeeded. So it really just depends how your business goes, how much you thought it through, or even just the economy. There's many different things that play a role into this. So just try to go into this with an open mind. Okay? Now, the business that I'm going to be talking about today is floral design. Why I chose this is because of all of these things here. And I'm going to explain it all to you. So floral design, in order for you to become a floral designer, you have to have an eye for design and art. And you have to be able to embrace the hard physical work and don't shy away from getting your hands dirty, because this is something this is a career field where you're not sitting behind a desk. You're constantly moving around. You're dealing with flowers, so you need to not be shy. With dealing with dirt and all that kind of stuff. You need to have organizational skills, being able to self-start, and in order to be able to be, you need to be self-starting. Individual capable of problem solving, creating detailed invoices and proposals when you're dealing with clients and you're communicating with them, being able to create those things, handling taxes because you're working for yourself, planning ahead, and resolving conflicts with professionalism. Next thing is you have to be inherently caring. Have a genuine love for serving people, because you're dealing with flowers, something that is so delicate and so beautiful. You have to be able to just truly not only have an eye for design, but have that love for serving others. With floral design, you have to have good customer service skills because it's at the heart of it all. Witnessing people light up with joy at the sight of beautiful blossoms is where the magic happens. And you need to be able to excel in navigating stressful situations, gracefully handling unexpected challenges. Wedding and event design work can be demanding because of the amount of things you have to do, and clients may be overwhelmed by nerves, which makes it even harder for you. But being able to manage that, like we said earlier, being able to be flexible, to be able to manage and deal with what you have in front of you and move on, that's important. Unpredictable nature of flower availability is also a big one because of the weather conditions, the seasons. Certain flowers may not be in season, and so you just have to be upfront with your clientele and say, hey, I can't deliver, I can't promise you these flowers. I have to reach out to these people, and I'll let you know. Next thing is role. This role, the most important thing is it involves you staying calm and managing changing circumstances once again. And I chose this because I'm very, very passionate about floral design, being able to create beautiful art with flowers and all these other qualities that I mentioned. Okay, and next is salary. So according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median floral design salary is reported to be $29,140 as of 2020. Now, this information, however, isn't based on the full spectrum of earning potential for floral designers. That's just one source. The next source, salary.com, reports that on average, floral designers actually earn between $42,000 and $63,000, with hourly earnings between $21 and $31 per hour. So it really varies. It really depends because these statistics don't include the profits you're making someone who's running their own business, who's a small business, and there's just a lot of things that go into this that are not included in these numbers, but it's a rough estimate. And now pricing. This is pricing in terms of your flowers, so your arrangements, how much you charge per order. So the rule of thumb is you take the cost of the flowers that the client is ordering and you multiply it 3 to 5 times, which will cover your labor, your supplies, and your overhead costs. Now, salaries do vary per floral designer, because if you're a floral designer who's just starting out and you're trying to gain experience, you're probably not going to be charging 5 times. You're probably going to be charging like 3 times, 2 times. So it really just varies. And there's also additional costs that a lot of people don't consider when they're going into this field, floral design. Now, floral design is different from being someone who deals with florals, because that's people who work at a grocery store and who store flowers, and there's so many other careers, but this is floral design, which means you are self-employed and you're running your own business and you're creating beautiful florals for others. And so the additional cost that people don't consider is AC. Where are you going to be keeping these flowers before an event so that they stay cool? Water, being able to water them, power to power the house and shop where you're going to be working out of, a vehicle for transportation, equipment, supplies, marketing, being able to market your business and advertise your flowers, website fees, educational seminars, and paying employees. These are all different, so many things to consider when considering this field. Now, sourcing flowers. Where do these floral designers get their flowers? Usually it's either from farmers or wholesalers. When you reach out to a farmer, you ask them, hey, do you have these flowers in stock? I need these flowers, these flowers, these flowers. Do you have them available? And the farmer will look and see. If farmers don't have the flowers needed for a floral designer, they're going to reach out to wholesalers. And wholesalers are these big businesses that have flowers all over the country, all over the world, that they bring into their hub. And that's where you reach out to these different wholesalers and you ask them what flowers they have available. And now, months before an event, let's say a client reaches out to a floral designer. They have a wedding they want to do. Let's do that, because usually the big events that floral designers have to deal with are either a wedding, a birthday, or something big. So weddings are usually the big one. So months before an event, a client reaches out to a floral designer. Usually, what's going to be happening in the beginning is the design board. This is a big piece because this is what ties the bridge between the client and the floral designer. This is where you get to really understand your client, their interests, what they want. You really get to see their style of the flowers that they want. You really get to see the colors, the theme, and the atmosphere. Now, at the end of the day, the floral designer is the one who's ultimately picking out the flowers. The client can, if they have a preference, they could say they want these, peonies or ranunculus, whatever it is. But ultimately, the floral designer is the one making the decisions in terms of what flowers they're going to be putting into the bouquets, the arrangements, everything. But the client they get to really say what style they want, what colors, theme, what atmosphere. And so that's where the design board comes in. And that's where all the ideas, the creativity is all being put on display. Next, what happens after the design board? You start to, as the floral designer, you start to create the recipe. That includes what kind of flowers that will be going into the arrangements, the quantity of flowers, and then reaching out to wholesalers, farmers, seeing what's available, and then ensuring that you have the correct quantities for everything. And once you have all of that, you start to prepare. The preparation, which is involving you ensuring you have the right amount of buckets, vessels, vases, and candle holders. Candle holders is something that a lot of florists offer different things. Candle holders is just one of the things that a floral designer could also offer. That goes well with the floral arrangements and everything else. Now, buckets, being able to store flowers, that's a big one. Vessels, vases, all that you have to take into consideration and make sure you have the right quantities of everything and make sure they're all clean and ready to go. Now, 3 days before an event, these are the big, essential, important days, because this is where a lot of the big bulk chunk of work that is going to be happening. This is where you acquire the products from the wholesalers and farmers, you pick it all up, you gather it, and then you begin processing the flowers, which is a lot of work. It's where you have to unpack, unbox, you clean the flower stems, make sure they're clean, and take off dead flower petals or rotten flower petals, make sure they look presentable. You give the flowers a fresh cut from the bottom, and then you dip them in the solution, right? And then you place them in these buckets where you store these flowers so that they survive longer, so there's longevity. Next, you have the flowers sit in water solution for 4 hours so that they can soak in all of that and make sure they last long. And then the floral designer finally arranges the flowers. This is where they create their beautiful art, their masterpiece, and they put just their creativity all on display. And finally, the morning of the event, this is where all the work is already done. A good chunk of it is done. And all the pieces, everything that you've created so far, you load it all in the vehicle, whatever it is, whether it's a truck, a trailer, whatever the floral designer decides to use. You ensure that the items are going to reach the venue safely. This is why they use this foaming here so that the vases and stuff doesn't tip over. And finally, once you get to the venue, once you get to the site, you set up everything at the event, right? So you put everything on the tables, everything needs to get set up, the aisle arrangements. Now, there are going to be certain things that you have to do on site. For example, if you're going to be doing an arch, something in the background where the ceremony is going to be happening, where the couple is going to be, this is something you have to create on site because it won't be able to last in the vehicle. And it's not going to be as fresh. It might not, something might be ruined on the way. So a lot of the times this is just more easier to do on site. So this is something you also have to consider, where you have to bring everything to the site and then you have to create it all there. And once all of that happens, you're done and you leave, and everything else that you figure out with the client in terms of picking up the vessels, the vases, and all of that little stuff. Now, final thoughts. Now, I just ran you through kind of like in a day in the life of a floral designer dealing with a big event. And now I just want to share my final thoughts. If you are considering to become a floral designer, which is something I am considering, what I've learned is the most important thing is you're going to be creating floral arrangements. So you need to be able to know how to properly create these floral arrangements. You need to be able to have that creative eye for design. Next, you have to understand how to extend the life of flowers. When you purchase these flowers, you don't just put them in water. You have to know what solution to use and how to properly give them a fresh cut and being able to have them extend for longer times. Also, temperature. The flowers tend to not last longer when it's warm, so you have to be able to keep them in a cool place. You have to also keep that in mind. Floral supplies. Be able to have all the floral supplies that you need. Sourcing your flowers. That's a big one. Knowing who to reach out to, having a connection, and knowing what wholesalers and farmers you need to reach out to. And finally, determining pricing. How much you're going to be pricing your clients. Now, this is all the information that I've gained so far, and thank you for listening.